Accra City Nice.
Accra City Nice.
You want to protect your trademark because if you don't, you are leaving money on the table.
So you've written a book about trademarks, IP relatedness for this market. What inspired that?
Well, the book is inspired by it's literally the frequently asked questions I've had. You know, I've been practicing IP for the past 3 years. I would say that's been my majority focus. The past 3 years has been intellectual property, and over time I realized that I started getting the same questions over and over. What is a trademark? What is copyright? Or what's a patent? And often I noticed that people tended to maybe confuse all three because, well, can I patent my name or can I trademark this invention? You know, those were typical things that people were asking. So I decided that over these 3 years, all of the frequently asked questions that I've had and more is what I would kind of condense into something simple and easy to read for people, to just get a first-hand, you know, knowledge, understanding of what intellectual property is and why it is important. At this point, I don't think I have seen anything like that on the market, so I thought perhaps there's a demand.
Right. So we're going to come back to really your career and some of the work, because I know you've done like what's the right term to use? You've helped set up the patent, or you've done the intellectual property. Some interesting brands in the space, from Afrocella. Wait.
No, I've done. Oh, it's hard not to blow my own horn.
That's why we are here.
I've helped Afrocella. I've helped Afrocella, you know, the Polo Beach Club, Garden Party. There's a brand called Very Ghanaian. There's a coffee producing company called Kawamoka, which is like just predominantly run by women, and they support women in villages like Le Klebi in the Volta region. There are quite a few, and apart from the Ghanaian sort of brands, I have been able to represent some, without mentioning names, some sportswear brands that you think of when you think of trainers, shoes, or fashionable sportswear based in Germany. That's all I'll say.
Are there differences between what IP is, what trademarks are, and what patents are?
Okay. So intellectual property is kind of like the umbrella term to represent all sorts of creative expressions and works.
Can you bring that back again?
Okay, so intellectual property is like an umbrella term that encompasses all creative expressions of work. So, for instance, and then under that intellectual property, depending on what the expression of the work is, you have a sort of intellectual property that is for you. For instance, if you had an invention, like I invented a car for the first time, that would be something that's protected under a patent. Now, if for instance you have a brand of water or shoe or clothing that you wanted to promote, or a service that you wanted to promote, that is what falls under what we know as trademark. I mean, I think the first thing you want to do, obviously as a lawyer, I'll say, speak to a professional about protecting your IP, because oftentimes if you walked yourself to, for instance, the Registrar General or the Ghana Copyright Office, fine, I'm sure people would assist you, but the legal professional will help you realize the full potential of what it is you're trying to achieve and advise you on how best to achieve it. So I mean, sometimes they think, oh, maybe expensive to do, but I think it's worth it, because in the long run you want to make sure that you have not registered something that is ineffective, and you want to make sure that you get the most value out of it. So the first thing I'll say is speak to a legal professional who can help you with it. like Swiftlaw. But I mean, the process generally is, you see, there are 45 different classes that you can register your trademark in. So depending on what it is you do, the industry that your field is in, you would choose from one of the 45 classes and say, okay, right.
45 classes in Ghana.
In Ghana and globally, you see, this is called the NIS classification.
Right.
There's there was this treaty that a lot of countries have signed to, and generally speaking, most countries adhere to the NIS kind of treaty, but there are other different classification around the world. But generally, there's the NIS kind of treaty. It's 45 different classes. So it ranges from class 1, which is chemicals, to 45, which is legal services, I think religious services as well. So depending on what it is you do, you have to kind of pick the class that you're in. Thereafter, like a representation of your kind of trademark, whether it's a picture, whether it's a word, whether it's a saying, then you kind of have that. And basically, yeah, you just fill out your application form. It just takes a bit of information about who the applicant is, and then file it at the Ghana IP office. And so after you filed and paid the necessary fees, it takes about 18 months for you for your trademark to be published. And what happens is, when your trademark is published in a trademark journal, people who have the opportunity to kind of oppose it. So what that means is, if you already have a trademark and you feel that, oh, this trademark that Mawina has right now is too similar to mine, you can then oppose it and say, no, this thing is too similar to mine, I do not want you to register it. And then if you're not able to resolve it, the trademark is not registered. Yeah, until it's resolved, or until the Ghana IP office kind of rules on it. Okay, so for trademarks that are registered in Ghana, the kind of territory it protects is just Ghana. However, there are ways of protecting a trademark kind of regionally. So there are various IP associations all over the world that you're able to kind of register. If you want to register your trademark in more than one place or across a region, for instance, there's English-speaking African countries. There's a body called ARIPO that deals with that, and then there's the French-speaking West African countries to have their own kind of body. And so if you wanted to protect in large kind of swaths or regions, you'd go through them. And they'll be able to help you protect it. But the thing is, with IP protection, is it gets more expensive the more regions you want to cover. And so what you want to do is make sure that your IP is protected in places that you see your business going to and actually dealing with. And then that makes it worth it. Yes.
Accra City Nice.
For a while, I noticed that African artists didn't realize that their stage name alone was I don't know if they didn't realize that the stage name alone is a brand, or they didn't realize that they had to protect it. Because you have people like Burna Boy, I mean, you have people like Wizkid, Davido. When they start to sign to those big Sonys, when they start to sign with Apple Music, they realize that instantly, yo, my exposure has maybe tripled overnight. They already have a huge following, but when you're in those conversations with those big guys, you want to make sure you maximize the amount of money that you can make, not only as you as an artist, but even in your personal capacity. So apart from your music, which is under your copyright and publishing with whoever your record label is and all of that, you want to, okay, fine, there's a whole record label deal thing. These things are split in certain percentages. Fine, you want to do that, but you yourself as a Burna Boy, or you yourself as a Wizkid, or you yourself as a Davido, you want to be able to kind of cash in to the brand. So they start to register their own trademark, so that if, for instance, they come out with a t-shirt that says Davido, OBO, 30 billion gang, they're able to then make money from that merchandise. They're able to make money. So it's just extra sources of income. it's just extra sources of income. You have even people that, like preachers, who have registered their names as trademarks.
I'm wondering.
Exactly, because they've realized that they're a brand, they're a global brand. And
is it not working for Jesus?
I'm hey,
yeah. I'm sorry, I'm putting this.
I mean, no. I see. The simple truth is that I don't know what their theology is, but I know that they want money in their bank accounts.
Straight. And that's what IP protection
and it can go to support the cause of Jesus. It can go to support their religious causes. I mean, extra money never hurt anybody. so yeah, that's I think when they start to have those conversations,
right.
When they start to realize that the brand is global, there's more reach. There's money you're leaving on the table essentially when you don't protect your own trademark. There's so much money you're leaving on the table. You start to see some of the stars who have international exposure, Ghanaian stars who have international exposure, do the right thing. Because recently I saw that Stone Boy had protected his trademark, and Beam is saying as well. I saw even the late Ebony Reigns too. Her dad had managed to protect her trademark too as well.
That's it.
And so I think it's gradually. I mean, it's gradually people are getting to know how important it is, but I don't think we're there yet at all, right, by a mile. I think there's more kind of education to be done.
Okay.
But generally, as the economy picks up and grows and becomes more advanced, the need or the knowledge that they would need to protect the IP grows. So you realize that the places that have the most trademarks and IP awareness are the most developed countries in the world. You talk of the Americas, China, Europe. So I believe that it's a factor of growth. Once we are able to grow to a certain point, it will become a bit more relevant. It will become a bit more well known that people have to protect their IP. So after Chimota, that's when I went to the UK. I did college, university, then law school. Then I came back to Ghana. Now, when I first came back to Ghana, I was working closely with my best friend. His dad had a law firm literally set up and waiting for us to come back. So as soon as I came back, I came back on a Friday. The Monday I was at the office. I was working with my best friend, and we came back with the goal of trying to make things simpler for people, make business simpler, make the law simpler for people. And my friend and I, we thought that, listen, in the next 2 years we're just going to change the whole legal scene in Ghana. They've never seen it before, and that's where we kind of started to push doing business online. And I tell you, at the time we started, about how many years ago is this? About 2011, almost 10 years, about 9 years ago. If you saw the state of some of the top law firms in Ghana's websites, you'd be shocked. Like one of them had a Word 95, like Windows 95 Word document as their website. Honestly, I wish I could have cached it, or I don't know, maybe the Wayback Machine. I want to go back to that website. That was their website.
Right.
And so that's instantly where we saw that, listen, by making a website, having phone numbers there, emails, making it accessible, instantly we started to see traffic, demand from all over the world. So that's where I first started to notice that, listen, doing the law on the internet is where it's at. That's the future. So after 2 years of that, I went to another law firm at Movenpick. It was another commercial law firm. Again, it was heavily marketed on the internet, and I did a bit more of commercial law. But after 2 years, I think that I can only work for somebody for a total of 2 years. After 2 years, I was feeling like I could do more with myself, and that there's a need for me to set up my own kind of business, which caters initially just to starting companies, starting up companies for people. That was the idea. So 5 years ago, I quit my job. I told my dad that I was on leave. I went to South Africa for a month because I knew that I'd be coming back and just taking a plunge into entrepreneurship, which I knew was hard.
Right.
So I came back and then literally started Swiftlaw from my bedroom. To be honest, majority of Ghanaian businesses don't really see the need to kind of protect their intellectual property. But what you should realize, especially in these times, is that the market that they cater for has opened up, and it has opened up significantly. And so they're not only catering to, fine, at this point you may be a brand that is a Ghanaian brand and only known in Ghana, but we live in a global village. We live in a very connected world by internet and these giant social media networks, and it's instantly kind of transforms your marketplace to one that is not just Ghana but the entire world. And now to be significant and to be distinguished clearly from your competitors, you would want to kind of protect your trademarks, because what happens is, at this time when anything can get viral, you want to be sure that you have protected your trademark before then, because you can't kind of work backwards. After it has become viral, naturally you have people who are trying to imitate or copy you, and so you want to kind of protect that so that you're able to cash in, you're able to make money from that brand that you had spent so long to build.
Right.
It can seem very like overwhelming in the beginning, understanding and protecting your intellectual property. I'll say the first thing you want to do before even protecting it is just understanding what your intellectual property is and the various rules, the various how to register it, how to protect it. Just understand what it is you're dealing with when it comes to intellectual property. Which brings me sweetly into my book, which is Trademarks in Ghana 101. It does exactly that. It answers frequently asked questions that people have had about trademarks, and it's very simple language. It breaks it down. Now, if you want to get a copy of this book, you can go on to Instagram at Swiftlaw, or you can email info@swiftlaw.co. That's info@swiftlaw.co. Yeah, and the website is www.swiftlaw.co. There's Instagram, Twitter is at Swiftlaw Africa, and yeah, don't let it be daunting. Just get an education, start to read about it. Just start to read about it, and as you begin to read about it, as you begin to listen more about it, as you've been conscientized towards understanding it, it becomes easier, like Swiftlaw.
Accra City Nice.
Accra City Nice.